final speaker today is Murray Osborne, who's about to come on the screen. There you are, Murray. Thank you very much for being here today. He's the head of wholesale at Vodafone New Zealand and is responsible for partnering with customers to provide access to Vodafone's technology and network services. The floor's yours, Murray. Still muted though.
There we go.
There
Is that better?
You're all right.
All right. Kia ora tātou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Ngāti Aotearoa te iwi, ko Murray Osborne taku angoa, ko taku mahi ki Vodafone, ko te head of wholesale. Thanks for the opportunity, Andrew Craig. I'm new to this area of the business. I've been in Vodafone about 12 years, but I've been asked to come across and head up this part of our business. As you may have known, over the last couple of years, Vodafone has made some quite big changes. So we are no longer part of Vodafone Group. We're now owned by Infratil and Brookfields, two local and international large asset investors. And obviously they saw an investment in Vodafone in that space, in the infrastructure space. So we've restructured our organisation to sort of support that new model, and I thought it would be worthwhile just sort of talking to that because I think it does play to what I'm going to talk about further on. So basically, we are now formed in terms of what we call our infrastructure team, which is run by a guy called Tony Beard, who's been in Vodafone a long time, about the same time I have. Bit of a legend in his own lifetime, he certainly thinks so anyway. And we've got a team of 500 now that run all of the networks that Vodafone are involved in. So that's all our mobile network, all our fixed networks, and we run those end to end. So we, if you like, in one way could be seen as a netco. And so certainly I'm part of the team of 500 that are delivering that capability, and we have, as I say, this complete autonomy in terms of the way that we run that network. Could you flick on to the next slide, Craig, please? So as part of that strategy, we've built a three-pronged strategy for the next 5 to 10 years, which has been presented to the board in the last month. And one of those core pillars of our strategy is what we're calling Network Forward. And that basically is a massive investment into both our fixed and our mobile network. The mobile side is called 5G Plus as a program, and then we've got what we call Project One, which is to support that, but to basically refresh, I guess, the core fixed network to support that. So we've got some fairly aggressive goals over the next couple of years in terms of where we want to get to. We are embarking in a massive upgrade of our current sites. We are also building out new sites. We're looking to have 99% population coverage with 4G. And obviously then we're growing into the 5G IoT type space. And I couldn't agree with Mike more. You know, the view here is that these are all just building blocks. And it's actually how you bring the building blocks together to create an outcome is really the important bit. This bit is just sort of the core, if you like. You've got to have a foundation, you've got to have a plan in terms of what you're doing to grow out the core network. But actually, I agree, it's only part of the story. So I'm completely aligned with that. Next slide. This one is more specific to what we're doing in the 5G Plus area, but this is really to talk to what we're doing with the regional areas. So we're going to build out about 800 new sites or upgrading sites in the next 2 to 3 years. We're obviously working and partnering with RCG, and I couldn't agree more. I think RBI2 has been a major boost and continues to be. I've got some thoughts in terms of how we managed some of the discussion you had, Mike, around coverage versus capacity. And I tend to agree. I think the challenge we're going to have is capacity, not coverage. And obviously with our IoT, we're looking to get to about 60% geographical coverage. So just to give you an idea, so these are the sites that we're building. So we've just finished in Manawatu. We're in the middle of work in the Bay of Plenty, and you can see the other regions that we're moving to beyond in the next sort of 12 months, and it's sort of represented there on the map. So there is a massive investment that the organisation is making, and we see it as a key driver for Vodafone's future is in the network. And so you're seeing quite a different, I guess, priority set from our owners versus, I guess, Vodafone Group, who sometimes I wonder whether they knew where New Zealand was. Do you have the next slide? And this is just an example of Manawatu, and this is not about a comparison thing. This is more around, actually, it does have an impact, right? So we just completed the work in the Manawatu region, and we had a third party come through and do the test and audit our capability across that region. And from what you can see, the service has definitely improved, right? And both from a mobile data, but also from a voice perspective. So we're pretty excited that as we continue to roll out into the regional areas, that we will be bringing capacity and capability to those areas for everyone involved. That's just an example. So next slide. Just to give you a quick snapshot, so we obviously bought Telstra Clear a number of years ago and inherited, if you like, or obtained a very large fixed network which covers the country. So we've got a number of different technologies that sit inside that, including fibre, HFC, the core infrastructure we have. We've got about 10,000 k's of fibre that we own. All the stuff around fully protected wavelengths. We've got the international presence points, which you can see there on the chart, and obviously we have capacity on all three of the international fibre cables across to Australia. And if you think about now with what's happening in the cloud space and the hyperscalers like your Microsofts and those guys now entering New Zealand, which I think is absolutely fantastic for all of New Zealand, certainly in the business space, and what that will offer us. And Amazon has now announced that they're coming as well. So I think there is a massive opportunity for us in terms of how do we leverage that for all New Zealand, not just in the urban areas. You've got the next slide. But I think, I might cover it really well. I think we do have a number of connectivity challenges, and New Zealand in its long, thin and sparsely populated geography creates its own set of challenges. I think you're absolutely right. COVID-19 has accelerated the digital option, whether it's 2 to 5 years, but we're certainly seeing that. The latest lockdown, the RBI data is up 75%, but if you look across the board, data over the last 12 months is probably up over 50% plus. So we know capacity is going to be the issue. The Rural Connectivity Group, we have a really good relationship with John and the team there, and certainly they are exceeding their targets in terms of where they're going in terms of the RBI build and the plans for that. So that's exciting. RBI 1, we have some challenges in that space, right? And it really is around capacity. And so it's the need of either building more towers or even more spectrum in terms of, as Mike discussed as well. But as a part of the wholesale team, my role is to support the likes of the WISPs and other players in the regions and in rural communities. We are just a core input. It's what you do on top of that that actually really creates the value. And we certainly look to support where we can, those organisations by providing some of the core connectivity, but obviously where we can help in terms of some of the ideas we can have around different coverage design solutions. I think the technology now that is coming with things like small cells and that type of thing, there are, as I think Mike mentioned as well, there are multiple ways to cover a connectivity challenge. And it's really just coming together with the right people to actually come up with the right solution. And we certainly feel that we are part of that and like to continue to be part of that as we move forward. So we're pretty excited about what's coming down the path. Next slide. I think there are a few questions that we need to, as an industry, we need to address. And I think for us at the moment, we're having quite a lot of conversations with both CIP and with RCG around capacity in RBI1 areas, right? And really our view is that it's to focus in on the quality and the capacity, not necessarily the coverage. And so we are looking to get further support from the government in terms of investing in those areas where there is demand, and also looking for them to support us in where there is sort of some of those non-economic areas. But I think this one is a massive challenge for us. We know that there is congestion. We know also that CIP have come out looking for some capacity upgrades. The challenge with any of this is it doesn't get turned on overnight. And so part of the challenge we have is what is the customer experience that we are creating by not being able to move more quickly. And I think as an industry, we need to continue to put pressure on the government and others in terms of actually continuing that investment. The utilisation of the RBI2 network. One of the ideas that we've got, I mean, they're talking about, I think, end of December next year, isn't it, that they're looking to complete it. They're also talking about maybe more sites and that type of thing. And I think that's fine. But one of the ideas that we've sort of been mulling around is whether you sort of stop at the 400, 450, whatever the site number is, and actually maybe reinvest the money into capacity rather than, you could go back to that. But I think there is an element or an opportunity for us to look at how do we find a different way of actually funding that capacity. We've just launched, obviously, in the RBI2 areas, the unlimited, and we're seeing a lot of that uptake. But I still think that there is a lot more in that network that we can leverage with different types of solutions, whether that be, things like IoT and others. I think the other one is, and Mike, I thought articulated this really well. I think the key here is that we really do need to look at New Zealand Spectrum's holdings and find an effective way to leverage that. So I mean, again, we've got Spectrum deals in the service enhancements that we all talk about. And so we're absolutely lobbying the government at the moment around making sure that they do allocate out and don't hold anything back. We're not sure whether we'll win that. I know the Maori Spectrum Commission are in the same conversations at the moment. We were talking to them yesterday. And so I think everyone's in the same place in terms of trying to put the pressure on the government in terms of what they do. I think there is also a piece of work that we need to do, though, around symmetric regulation for all telecommunications providers. And I know Mike talked about Starlink. Absolutely, but they need to be brought into as part of the fold and effectively be part of the conversation around how we manage that spectrum and how we manage those regulations, so that we're providing an equal playing field, I guess, for all the telecommunication providers out there. So that's another one of those things where I think we as an industry all need to kind of come together and understand how we can play a role to support each other and to make sure that the grounds that we've made and the great ground we've made in terms of where we've got to with rural connectivity so far continues, and if at all possible, move it at a greater pace. So we're very keen to be part of that story and part of the conversation with the industry in terms of how we can work with you guys to actually make sure that some of these challenges get addressed. And I think the other point I think Mike made, which I again agree with, is it's a sustainable investment is what we're looking for also. So investment over time, not investment to solve point problems. I think this has got to be very much part of the long-term strategy for rural. And we certainly see that as being key to the productivity gains that the governments and the country are looking for. And a lot of that can be driven out of the rural sector. So exciting times. Thank you for your time. Kia ora. I guess it's questions now, Craig.